Joining us now, she is in her second year as head coach, of course, helping turn around NC State. Got them to 30 wins last season. I speak of Lindsay Leftwich joining us back here and in the circle at D1 softball. How you doing?
Good, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Let's reflect on last year before we talk about this year. A huge improvement for the program was to where it is. I believe it had a 12-win improvement, win 30 games, really drastically improved the RPI over 100 spots. When you look back at last year, what comes to your mind?
Um, Man, last year was just like everything that was new for my team, like because of us as a new staff, was also new for me. So like there was just so much new in all of these places that like when I think back about last year, I don't it was this massive whirlwind. Like I don't remember half of it, it feels like, because it's just like, okay, well, there's this another new experience. And oh yeah, there's this other new experience. And oh yeah, I've never been there either. So I don't know what that feels like either. But like at the same time, there's all of this new, but like when it really came down to it, it was just like playing softball and loving our kids well and trying to move us forward in that space. And so there was some really old stuff in it that felt really good and comfortable, and then there was a lot of new.
What did you learn as a head coach last season that you didn't know going in? Like you had ideas, but until you go through it, you didn't realize it until you went through it. What did you learn about being a head coach last year?
I I think that I always felt responsible for a lot of things at LSU. Beth always did such a good job of like making things mine, but man, when you really feel responsible for the whole thing, like it really does keep you up at night. Like you go to bed thinking about someone's swing and you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about someone's swing, and I I I expected it, but then at the same time, like I didn't know what that would feel like to like for your name to be next to it. And I think my staff did such a good job of supporting me in that space and taking on some of the stuff that like probably should have been mine, and they did a really good job of running with it. And then I think the other thing that I really wasn't prepared for was like just the complete overhaul of like setting up a whole new system. Not that the system that was here before was bad, but setting up a system of like, this is my swing philosophy. This is our defensive philosophy. And like implementing that for the group as a whole was at times that was really overwhelming just because there was like so many new things all the time. And I couldn't just look down the row and be like, hey, such and such player at LSU, remember that one time we did that one drill? Let's do that now. And like you found your time yourself like reteaching things that you had forgotten how to teach almost because like your players just did it for you. And so that was interesting, and there was a lot of growth in that for sure.
You look at this year's roster. You've got four seniors, you got three transfers, you got six freshmen. Just kind of give me a breakdown of the roster. You do return experience on the pitching side. You lose some big significant bats, but you return some significant bats. How do you feel about this overall roster?
Yeah, I think we're this really interesting mix of old and really young. And so it's just like all that stuff I just talked about that was new last year and us having to teach it and implement it, we're doing it again with 10 new people. And so that definitely comes with its challenges of just like you should know that. But then you step back and you're like, well, crap, you shouldn't know that. I get you're a junior, but you're a transfer and you're from someplace else. I have to tell you that. And then our upperclassmen are still learning what we like and what our system is and like really feeling comfortable in it. So they're not always in a space yet where they're just willing to like take control of a certain situation and like run with it and kind of make it their own. So like we've been really working on like implementing some spots where okay, like this is 100% player led, like run this drill, or this is whatever we're doing tonight is this is coming from the group and not from us as a staff. And you have to be willing to like let go of the reins a little bit and let that happen. I think on the mound, I feel super confident in their growth over the fall here. We saw Win Gore return from a couple of surgeries last year, and she walked in the door throwing 61 and walked out of here throwing 69. Like, and that's a testament to Paige Cassidy and what she's done there, but even more testament to like what Win was willing to come in and do and the ownership that she took in that. And so like the pitching staff as a whole is going to look different without Aisha on the mound, like without somebody throwing 70 at your face. That feels different. But they did a great job of like figuring out who was good at what and trying to like really buy into their role. I'm really impressed with what the bullpen has looked like throughout the fall. And then offensively, it's just a matter of like who's going to fill some holes and who's going to stand out and who goes where and who protects who. And that was like an interesting thing this fall that Coach Bosch and I really did a bunch of mixing around when we played other teams, just to try and see like, okay, like if we put Madison Insco here, does Hannah Church go behind her? If we put Church here, who protects her? Like in some of those spots. And so we did a lot of flipping throughout the fall just to figure out what that really looked like. We played 5 Division I teams and then obviously like scrimmaged ourselves a bunch. So we have a bunch of numbers against really quality pitching. And I think that's really going to help us rolling into the spring on who fits in what space and who can help the team from an offensive perspective.
Your mentor over there in Baton Rouge should be proud of you. Just mentioning pitching first. I have a feeling that she appreciates
I learned well.
it. But you mentioned the pitching. We got Riley back. You got Madison who can play both ways. What have you seen from them in leading in their specific roles, pitching wise, and and in case of Madison who can play both ways?
I think Madison, I'm really proud of from this fall. Like she made a big commitment to the weight room, made a big commitment to her nutrition level and like what she was going to do. Try and like one, like be big, strong, and powerful, but two, then protect herself too a little more. Like being a two-way player takes a big toll on you physically and mentally. But then, so from a physical perspective, we just tried to make her less fragile. And that's been huge for her. I think she instantly saw some results. She saw results in what she was able to do offensively and how the ball came out for bat, some bat speed training stuff. We did some power stuff with her. And then that same stuff transfers to the bullpen right away. Like if you can start and stop and create big engines and big breaks on both sides of your body, you're going to pitch just as well as you're going to hit. And I think that I think she did a really good job of like buying into the fact that that would help her. And then Riley, her fall was interesting. She had a little roller coaster in the middle, saw some good stuff, and then like really struggled. But she struggled because her offense got better. So like as throwing against our own team, you play your own team enough times and they're going to hit you around a little bit. That's hard for them. And so then we saw her towards the end of the fall, like really be like, okay, like these are the things I have to do better. I have to be able to like make myself look different in different spaces, which is like such a cool learning moment for her of like how you win a series, right? Like I can't look the same on Friday that I look on Sunday or whatever that looks like. And so I was really proud of like just like as she went through that up and down of the fall, how she kind of like grew in that space.
Talk about some of the bats here. You obviously have Taylor Inslee hit 333 last year, 11 homers, 43 RBIs. You had Michelle hit 353. You've added some transfers. Hannah Church from Ohio State. Just talk about the lineup and the identity you expect from this offense.
Um, I think that I mean Taylor Inslee does what she does well. Like she like is so consistent, which is interesting because last fall I wouldn't have said that about her. But then once we got into gameplay, it's like anytime you needed a hit, you wanted Taylor to be the one at the plate. And she comes through in all of those spaces and she's really consistent with who she is in the dugout too. So like she's so quick to buy into like, okay, coach says we should stand on top of the plate for this kid. Let's do it. Everyone, let's go. You're on board. And like that, you need that when you're running an offense. Like you need your first follower of someone who's just willing to do something crazy when you're getting blown up by somebody and you got to figure something out in the fifth inning. And so she's so good at that. I think that I think the addition of Hannah Church is going to be huge. We also brought on Ellington Whitaker from Baylor, who she didn't see a ton of playing time last year at Baylor, but from a previous recruiting perspective, like I recruited her when we were at LSU, and I know that the offensive capability is in there. And so I think she is proven to be really consistent, just stacks quality at bats, walks a ton in a bunch of spaces. And so like that gives us a chance just to continue to turn the lineup over. And so when she's catching as well as she is behind the plate, it's really easy to want to find a place for her in the lineup. Church from a power perspective has been so fun to watch this fall. She hits balls at our field really, really far. And, anybody who's been to our park knows that we're a little short in center field. And she consistently is just putting balls on the track over and over again. And I think that that's been fun for the rest of our team, like our returners to watch too, because they're like, okay, like doing some things this way creates that, like, let me do what she's doing. And so like kind of created this like internal, like no one's just sitting there like wowed anymore. They're like, okay, I can do that too, which is cool. I think from an identity perspective, I think we're gonna I think we're going to be the same as we were last year. I think we're going to try and steal more bases than they've stolen here in the past. I think when we go on the road, obviously we're going to try and hit a ton of doubles. And then when we're here, we're going to try and hit those same doubles that hopefully get out. We're gonna run a bunch. We're gonna move runners a bunch. We're gonna definitely focus on just this overall team offense, which is like such a cliche way of saying like I want to make sure that like we're balanced in a space where if we're playing on a day with a ton of wind, we're not just hoping that we hit a bunch of jacks, or if we're playing on a day with really soft infield, our slappers can't get something done. So I'm going to try and make sure that across the board we can kind of cover the gamut of what we need on any day to win.
Of the freshmen, how many do you think could contribute right away and what roles? I'm not even talking about offensively or pitching wise, but I'm talking it could be a defensive player, could be a pinch runner, could be defensive replacement. How do you see from this freshman class?
Yeah, I think the freshmen have been fun from from a recruiting perspective. We've got a couple of them in there that like the football recruiting should hire them right now because they were incredible this fall. Like just from a personality perspective, they knew this much about NC State and they were like the best possible salesman we could have had. It was really cool to like watch them work. Cam Munson, Haley Carter did such a good job of just being like the face of the program and like having energy and like growing us to this space, which was so cool. And I it was really fun just to sit back and be like, okay, that was so neat to watch them like teach people how to love this place. I was really, really inspired by that. And then I think Kendall Simmers defensively has kind of proven that she has some spots around the infield that she can cover. So this beginning of January is going to be a fight here for like who can earn each position. We kind of popped Kendall into every single space, just seeing what it would look like. Offensively, her bat speed numbers went up like 6, 7 miles an hour, which was incredible. She had some of the highest exit velocities of the fall. And she's a freshman, and so she's gonna really push someone to find a position. She's gonna have to come in and obviously earn one of those spots because we are old in some spots, but I don't think anyone across the group in the infield really locked it down just to be like, okay, Kendall, you're not coming here. So I think that depending on how their break goes, I think Kendall has a chance to come in and like nudge somebody around from the get-go.
I remember we spoke a year ago, and one of your goals was to bring positivity into the program. That the players were looking for that. That
Mhm.
obviously things didn't go as well prior to your arrival there. Do you feel you're ahead of schedule in a lot of ways, considering what you did last year and what you have coming back? How do you rate that, having that where you're at now with that positivity, and bringing that confidence to the players?
I think we're still coaching a lot of belief. And honestly, I think for years to come with this generation of kid, we're going to continue to coach a lot of belief, and I think that that's still a huge part of what we do every day is like getting them to believe that they're good enough, getting them to believe that I can do this, getting them to believe that the work is worth it, right? So I think that's still a part of us, but I think like you see a lot more of the players like holding on to like somebody will pop off and say something like, of course I sucked at that. And you'll hear one of the players like pop in with like, dude, that was fine, keep going. And that's so cool when they start to do that themselves, when they start to replace like the stuff our brain tells us with truth and they start to do it out loud with each other. And so I think that's growing more and more. I wouldn't say that we're ahead of schedule by any means, but I think we are on target to like growing to this really neat space of like player driven stuff. And then we just get to continue to love them and grow them. And then and when that stuff is player driven and the culture is player driven, we're able to challenge them and they like don't back down to the challenge. And I think that that is what I think we saw some ups and downs of that this fall. Like it was hard for them sometimes with how we challenged them and they had to like take a step back and be like, okay, like I know that they love me. I know that this is in my best interest. I know that I can keep pushing forward and having people in your corner like the rest of the team continuing to push them forward helps so much. And then I think playing wise, I don't know, the schedule is really hard again this year. And so I think obviously like I have this expectation of like I want to be good and our staff has this expectation of like we want to do all these things. And I think that the players are starting to get on board. I think they're starting to believe that we're capable of that. Like and then, the other thing that's different this year is like they don't get to surprise anyone anymore, right? Like you don't get to roll into Clemson and sneak a Friday night game away because now Clemson's going to prepare for you. Whereas before, maybe they didn't think they had to because they looked past you a little bit. So I think they have to just be prepared that like it still is going to be hard. But
Yeah.
like, man, if it wasn't hard, we wouldn't do it, right? Like, there's no fun in it if it's not like this one of the coolest challenges you've ever had.
Well, and that would explain, starting the season, you're going to start in Orlando. You're going to have UCF's the host. You got Georgia in that field, JMU, which returns a lot, Illinois, and Bakersfield. That's a pretty stacked opening weekend to start right off the bat.
Yeah, it's not easy for sure. And then the next weekend we roll into FAU and have a similar schedule. And then we come home and we play Michigan at home. We also have Illinois at home. We don't play Illinois while we're there. Um and then we start conference play. And conference play for us is just as difficult again. But man, why not? Like, why not us, right? Like we go back to Florida State, we have Clemson again, we have Virginia Tech again, we have Duke again. We go to Boston for the first time, so that'll be my first time there. And Notre Dame comes to us, and I get to go to UNC for the first time, so that'll be cool.
Oh, wow, that's right. Forget that you're still making some
Yeah,
first time
remember,
trips
there's still
there.
lots of new firsts for me.
Yeah, I realized that. You mentioned Chestnut Hill. That's where the ACC tournament's going to be like. Do you like that fact that you're going to get to play games there before going to the ACC tournament?
Especially because my team is so young. Like, if we were old and half the team had already been to Boston before, cool. Like, who cares if we go there earlier in the year? But because we're so young, I think it's important to like go and then like get a lay of the land, figure out, what you're gonna eat for breakfast and what little bagel shop you like and where your coffee's located at. And then then you show up to play and it doesn't feel like this big, huge thing. We just get to sync to what we know and you get to show up and play softball. And I think that I'm excited that we get to do it twice for sure.
Speaking of new, I mean, nothing says newer than the ACC than having Stanford and Cal this year in their first year. What's that been like among the coaches to add Stanford and Cal? It's a deeper league as a result. Some schools have to go out west, some have to host them, some don't play them at all. It's kind of a little bit all over the place. What's kind of the vibe as far as the league's concerned with the new
Man,
look?
I think everyone's excited. I think adding coaches of the caliber of Alistair and Spencer, man, like those two have done it. They've been it. They've been around it. They've accomplished things at a really high level. And I think adding them to our coaching group now helps like push the league forward, which is cool. And then they both have been a part of teams that have set the bar for what success looks like. And so I think that, rising tides raise all boats, right? And so I think that just continues to like pull the league up. And I think everyone's really, really excited about that. I don't play either of them this year. They're not on my schedule at all. I get both of them next year. So we'll miss out on playing in Stanford's football stadium, which I'm a little bummed about. Which seems like it's gonna be super cool. And then we'll get to go to their place next year when they have their brand new spot. So I don't know. I think that adding them to the league just makes the league better. And I think that the more we can do to continue to push the ACC forward, we should be doing.
When on years you got to go out west, will that impact your non-conference scheduling from a travel standpoint, or the fact that you're in a spot literally where you in Raleigh where you can fly a lot of different places? Maybe that's not as a big of an impact to you as it would be to
Yeah,
other places.
it won't change our stuff much at all. It just means we probably won't go west for a preseason tournament. So like next year instead of going west to play a preseason tournament, we go west to play Cal, and then we stay somewhere over here for our couple of preseason tournaments. But being in Raleigh, like I mean, the airport is literally 12 minutes from the field, and you can fly pretty much direct anywhere you go. And so it makes it super easy for us to get where we need to do and to do it pretty budget friendly. We got some really cool airlines now too that are flying like you can go round trip to Chicago on Allegiant for like $49. So like we're gonna be able to like mix and match some travel stuff here that really helps keep our budget in a good space, but still allows us to like expand the conference in this way. We definitely are in a better spot than like, you know, Florida State or Notre Dame. It's hard for them to get spots.
Yeah, no, that's what's so fast. I mean, I tell people that's why I love Raleigh. It's a great
Mhm.
place, locale, but it's easy to get in and get out as well. I think people don't really underestimate. They underestimate that a little bit. I'm curious. NC State men's basketball had that incredible run, winning the ACC tournament, getting all the way to the Final Four. Is that something you bring up to your players? Is that something that you think the feedback could be kind of a feedback there, where the players feed off of that, seeing a team that made that run backs against the wall, where maybe they were playing with their backs against the wall, where the season might be on the line if they don't win the ACC tournament. They win that. Not only that, then they go on in a single elimination tournament, make it all the way to a Final Four. How much of that is brought up within your team?
Oh yeah, I mean, success leaves clues, right? And so like any space where we could talk about something or watch something that was happening here at NC State of all the other teams finding success, we did. We tried to talk about like what they were doing and what made them find it, especially with men's basketball. I mean, like if they don't win the ACC tournament, like I'm there's a really good likelihood that the head coach gets fired and they start all over again, right? Like they were not in a good spot and then they went on a run, but it's everything that like within the group that the group knew was happening. So like we have a bunch of players that are really good friends with them and they would always say like no they know where they're headed. They know where they're going. And so like it's just like they put on earmuffs and blinders to all the noise around them and just went. And like so that was cool for our team to like watch it happen and know what was really happening inside because they then bought into the fact that like the moment I give someone power on the outside to tell me I'm good, I also give someone power to tell me I'm bad. And so they bought into the fact that like it just matters what goes on inside our circle. And that was really neat to watch. Men's basketball aside, like last year from a sports perspective at NC State, it was incredible. And it was really cool to be a part of that and to watch what was happening within the teams and then to watch our team kind of gravitate towards some of it. I mean, men's and women's basketball are both in the Final Four. Men's baseball went to the College World Series. Wrestling won the ACC for the 6th year in a row. Swimming won the ACC and put a bunch of people in the national championship for like the 10th year in a row. Women's cross country run the cross country national championship for the 3rd year in a row. Like sports here at NC State are blowing up and like it was really neat to be able to be like to stand back from the side and be the new kid and like kind of get to like pull and take what all those coaches were doing really, really well. We have multiple coaches that coach our national teams. And so like just sitting down with like Braden, who coaches men's and women's swimming and like talking about like, why do you do this? What pushes your people to this place? And so like for me personally too, I got to learn a lot. And then hopefully we got to give a bunch of that to our team. We actually kind of flipped that into our theme for this year. Our theme is it takes what it takes, it being what we're focused on. Like, what is it? How do you get it? Who has it? And what are we going to go to find? Like, what are we going to do to find it? And so we've kind of tried to use a bunch of the things that have happened here from a sports perspective and be like, okay, like, hey, come talk to our team or send us a video or do whatever. And like, what is it about you that makes you different?
No doubt. Uh, Last couple things. I know when we spoke last year, you were still kind of transitioning to moving to the area, so you hadn't had a chance to check out the scenery, if you will. I would assume now it's been a year later. Have you been able to check out some scenery as we're recording this interview? You notice I'm wearing my
I
Durham
have Bulls.
Bulls.
Watch out.
Have you gone to a game?
Yeah, I've been to a game. I sat in the outfield. It was like $5 hot dog night. It was awesome.
Isn't
And
it?
like
I tell everybody that. Like, that's like a
such a cool
must.
experience. And it sounds like we're about to get the Tampa Bay Rays full time next year. So I'm
Easy,
gonna be down for
easy,
that
easy.
too.
That's a little sensitive over here in the state of Florida right now. I mean, we're hoping to get them in Steinbrenner Field, but yeah, that could be in play down the road. You never know.
MLB the Raleigh's really pushing to get MLB team. So I think they're hoping that they can like set the standard for the fact that we could be good at it. Yeah, I bought a house and it kind of like I really live here now. It doesn't just feel like vacation, which is cool. And there's some really neat things that I've gotten to do and kind of like experience and everything from the beach in Wilmington to there's like 4 major lakes here in Raleigh and I can throw my kayak on top of my Forerunner and like go to the lake and do some things. And so like I like actually live here and it's really cool.
All right, if you get the Rays, you better hook me up the tickets. That
I'm
better be the
here. I can make it happen.
okay, and help get me up there if that happens. We'll see what happens with that story. But you're right, Raleigh has been a place that's been looking for a baseball franchise, MLB franchise. They've done very successful with obviously the National Hockey League with the Carolina Hurricanes.
I
I mean,
went to hockey the other night. They put on an incredible show. I was so impressed.
is that the first time you've been to a
It's
hockey
the
game?
first time I made it to one. We played the Sharks. We won three
Okay,
to two. It was awesome.
okay, so you checked that off the list.
Yeah.
That's good. What's left on the list you still haven't done yet? Have you been to like a Carolina Panthers game? Is that the next thing on the list? What are we looking at?
I'm not really a professional football fan. That's gonna be the rest of my staff. Coach Bosch was at like 2 professional football games within 2 days in the last couple of days. He's been all over the place. I really want to go west, and like check out the mountains and do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet, but obviously like they had some challenges this fall with the hurricane, and as they kind of rebuild and do some things there, that's probably a little ways off for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that was a rough time there. Hurricane. There are no places in Asheville still
Mhm.
recovering from that. But you sound like my sister because we've done that trip. My sister is always the one that's looking at other stuff, where I'm looking at sports scenes. That's satisfying.
I'm here for all the minor league baseball though. There's so much right around us.
It really is.
Like the Mudcats, there's everyone. It's awesome.
It's wild there. I'll let you go on this. Obviously, you'll come to Orlando, which I'll get to see you in February on that point. What are some things you're looking forward to finding out about your team that you may not find out until that weekend that you think will be keys to the year?
I'm really excited to figure out one, I got to figure out who's gonna hit in the leadoff. That'll be a fun January. We don't know who fits there yet. Like we play all the numbers and Bosch is the numbers guy and pulls all the stuff. And like as much as the numbers tell you something, like somebody's like makeup has to tell you something too, And so that I'm really excited to see that. More than anything, I'm really excited just to continue to watch them fight. I think that's the one thing they proved last year, that even when they didn't fully believe that they were great, or when we were down in the, fifth against Florida State or whatever it was, like they proved that they know how to fight. And so I'm excited to watch now that they have a little more confidence in who they are. I'm excited to watch that fight kind of grow. And instead of dropping a game in the sixth now, I'm excited to watch them figure out how to win it. And I think that's just kind of like the natural progression of a team. And so I think this year you're going to see us win a lot of close games in those spots, and I'm excited to like watch them believe that they can.
That's NC State head coach Lindsay Leftwich joining us here on In the Circle of D1 Softball. Great to have you once again on. Always a pleasure to catch up. I know we'll talk more between now and with the start of the season when you come down to Orlando. But in the meantime, happy holidays, and thanks for always taking the time to talk to us here on In the Circle of D1 Softball.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.